on a small, quiet farm on the edge of the galaxy, lived a lonely man named Yarek. Yarek was a farmer who worked hard every day. But his crops were failing, and the debts were growing. He dreamed of a better life. But the stars above seemed far away and cold. One evening, Yarek heard rumors in the spaceport near his farm there was a poker game happening. A high-stakes game where players bet things that no one could imagine. Curious and desperate, Yarek decided to leave his lonely farm for the first time in years. The bright lights and loud noises of the spaceport shocked him. But he kept walking toward the poker hall. Inside, creatures from many planets sat around tables, their eyes sharp, their faces serious. Yarek felt small and out of place, but his hope pushed him forward. He sat down at the table. Holding his few credits tightly, the game began and cards were dealt quickly. The players smiling with hidden tricks. Yarek was no gambler, but he learned fast, each round. He risked more than he should, but something inside told him to keep going. At the center of the table, the prize was not just credits or goods. It was a figure, covered in shadows, chained lightly, but with a powerful presence. The dealer announced with a cold voice, "The winner takes the prize, an alien girl, property of the highest bidder." The room went silent, then laughter filled the air. Yarek felt a cold shock. He did not expect this. The alien girl looked at him with wide, frightened eyes. She was small, with silver blue skin that shimmered under the lights. Her hair was long and black, but messy and wild. She was beautiful, but scared, and no one spoke kindly to her. Yarek did not understand this custom of buying a person, but his heart told him to protect her. The game continued, and Yarek won hand after hand. Surprising everyone, his luck and calm mind confused the others when the final card was placed on the table. Yarek held the winning hand. The dealer smiled. "The prize is yours, farmer. But be warned, the galaxy does not give gifts without a cost." Yarek looked at the alien girl again, and she looked back, a mix of hope and fear in her eyes. He nodded slowly, not knowing what he had just agreed to. As the game ended, men and women crowded around, some angry, some curious. Yarek stood up. Feeling the weight of all eyes on him, he took the alien girl's hand gently, and she did not pull away. For the first time in a long time, she felt a small spark of safety. Back on his farm, under the quiet stars, Yarek sat with the alien girl. By a small fire, she said little, but her eyes told stories of pain and loneliness. Yarek knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was big and dangerous, and they were strangers in it. But one thing was clear: would not let her suffer as others had. He promised himself to be different, to treat her with respect and kindness. No matter what came next, he would fight for her freedom and dignity. The night was silent, except for the crackling fire and distant stars. Yarek felt hope for the first time in years. His lonely life was about to change forever. The morning sun rose slowly over Yarek's farm, casting soft light on the strange visitor who sat quietly by the wooden fence. The alien girl, who now had no name, looked lost in thought, her shimmering silver blue skin glowing faintly in the dawn. Yarek watched her carefully. He wanted to know more about her, but he also knew she might not trust him yet. Her eyes flicked toward the fields, then away, as if memories pulled her in many directions. Finally, after a long silence, she spoke in a soft voice that was almost a whisper. "My name is Lyra," she said, "but names don't matter where I come from. Only chains and orders." Yarek's heart sank. He had thought she was just a prize to be won. But now he saw she was a person, someone who had suffered much. Lyra told him stories slowly, never revealing everything at once, but enough to paint a picture of a harsh life. She was from a distant planet called Veralia, where her people lived in tight clans, proud and strong. But Lyra was born with a rare gift, something her people feared and hated. She could sense emotions deeply and heal small wounds with her hands, but this made others see her as dangerous because of her gift. Lyra was captured by slavers who sold her across the galaxy. She had been a prize in many places, treated like property, not a person. Many tried to use her gift for their own gain, but she was scared and tired. No one ever showed her kindness, only greed and cruelty. Yarok listened, his hands clenched tightly. He had never met someone so brave and broken at the same time. "I won't let anyone hurt you again," he said simply. "You are safe here with me." Lyra looked at him, surprised by his words, and for a moment her guard lowered. But danger was not far behind. That same day, a group of men in black uniforms arrived at the farm gate. They were bounty hunters sent to take Lyra back, angry that she had been lost to a simple farmer. Yarok stood in front of Lyra, his old farming tools in hand. The hunters laughed at him, mocking his small farm and simple life. But Yarok's eyes burned with quiet fire, and he was ready to fight. For her, he used his knowledge of the land and quick thinking to slow the hunters down. The narrow paths and tall crops gave him the advantage. Lyra, seeing Yarok fight, felt something new, hope mixed with fear. She reached out with her hands, touching his arm lightly, and a warm glow spread between them. Her healing gift was real, and it touched Yarok like a gentle fire. Together, they pushed back the hunters until they fled, warning they would return with more power. That night, under the stars, Yarok and Lyra sat by the fire again. "We must prepare," Yarok said. "They will come back, and they will bring others." Lyra nodded, her eyes strong now. "I want to help you," she said, "not just be saved." The farmer smiled for the first time in days. Together, they began to plan how to protect the farm and each other. Yarok taught Lyra how to use the land as a shield, where to hide, how to listen to the wind for danger. Lyra taught Yarok about her gift and how to heal small wounds. Their trust grew slowly, building a bond stronger than fear or pain. But beyond their quiet farm, the galaxy was watching. Word of the farmer who won an alien girl spread fast, stirring curiosity and anger. Some saw Yarok as a fool, others as a hero, but everyone agreed this was no ordinary farm or farmer anymore. Lyra's secret was more than just a gift, was a spark that could change lives. And the danger chasing her was not only about chains or games. It was about power, fear, and the fight for freedom. Yarok and Lyra did not know what the future held, but together, they were ready to face it. For the first time in a long time, the lonely farmer felt alive, and the alien girl felt safe. Maybe for the first time ever. News of the farmer and the alien girl spread quickly through the small towns and spaceports nearby. Many whispered about the strange man who bought a girl in a poker game. Some called him lucky. Others called him foolish, but few understood the bond growing quietly between Yarok and Lyra. Yarok knew that talk could bring trouble. He was just a simple farmer, not a warrior or a hero. But he had something others did not: a steady heart and a strong will. One afternoon, as Yarok worked in the fields, a group of rough-looking men arrived. They were bounty hunters, hired by those who wanted Lyra back. The leader sneered, "Hand her over, farmer. She belongs to us now." Yarok wiped sweat from his brow and stood tall. "This is my land, and she stays with me," he said calmly. The hunters laughed at his quiet voice. But Yarok did not back down. He led them to the edge of the farm, where the tall crops hid narrow paths and deep ditches. Yarok had spent years knowing every inch of this land, and he used it like a shield. He showed the hunters the hidden traps he had set: a few sharp branches here, a pit covered with leaves there. The bounty hunters tripped and cursed, their confidence shaking. Lyra watched from behind, her eyes bright with hope. She stepped forward and touched Yarok's arm, her small hands glowing softly. a healing light, eased a cut on his hand from a thorn, and the hunters noticed the strange glow. They whispered to each other, this girl was not ordinary. She was something powerful, but Yarok smiled. She's with me. And we stand together. The hunters tried to fight. But Yarok's cleverness and Lyra's gifts made them struggle. The land was alive with the farmer's protection. After a tense fight, the hunters fled, warning they would return with more men. Yarok and Lyra knew the battle was only beginning. They needed help, but the nearby towns were wary of the alien girl. Many feared what they did not understand, and prejudice ran deep. One day, a traveling merchant stopped by the farm. He was a quiet man with sharp eyes who listened carefully to their story. People fear what is different, he said, but there are others who will stand with you. Yarok and Lyra decided to send messages to those few friends and strangers who might help other outcasts, rebels, and honest folk. Slowly, allies began to arrive, bringing skills and knowledge together. They built simple defenses around the farm, traps, alarms, and safe places. The lonely farm was turning into a fortress of hope. Lyra taught the newcomers about her gift, how it could heal wounds and calm pain. Her kindness and strength inspired those who once feared her. Yarok's steady leadership gave them courage. But the galaxy outside was harsh. The poker master, the one who lost Lyra in the game, sent soldiers and mercenaries. They came in waves, trying to break the farm's defenses. Each time Yarok and his new friends fought back with courage and wit. One night, as the stars twinkled above, Lyra stood by the farm's fence. She looked at Yarok and said quietly, "You are not like others who owned me." Yarok smiled. "No one owns you, Lyra. You are free here." Their bond grew stronger with each challenge. Yarok felt his lonely heart healing. Lyra found a family in the unlikeliest place, simple farmer and a band of brave souls. But the greatest test was yet to come. The poker master himself was coming. He was a powerful man with cruel plans. Yarok knew he had to prepare not only to fight, but to protect what they had built. The farmer stood before his friends and said, "We fight not just for her, but for all who have been treated like property. For freedom, for hope, and for a future where kindness wins." The farm was no longer just a place of crops and soil. It was a symbol of resistance, of change. And Yarok was ready to stand tall against the galaxy's darkness. Asterisk days passed quietly on the farm, but inside, something deeper was growing between Yarok and Lyra. They did not need many words to understand each other. Yarok noticed the small things, how Lyra smiled when the wind blew soft, how her eyes followed the birds in the sky, how she touched the earth gently, as if feeling its heartbeat. Lyra, in turn, watched Yarok's steady hands as he worked the land. She saw his kindness in the way he cared for plants and animals alike. She began to trust him not just as her protector, but as someone who saw her as a person, not a prize. One afternoon, while the sun was warm and the fields were green, Lyra found a small flower growing between rocks. She picked it carefully and brought it to Yarok. "I want to give you this," she said softly. Yarok took the flower with surprise, then smiled warmly. "It is beautiful, like you," he said. They laughed together for the first time, a sound full of hope. But their peaceful moments were rare. The poker master's threats grew stronger, and more mercenaries came near the farm. Yarok and Lyra prepared for each attack, but they also dreamed of a future beyond fighting. Lyra began to teach Yarok about her people's customs, their stories of stars and courage. She told him how her gift was seen as a curse by some, but a blessing by others. Yarok shared his own stories of quiet nights alone on the farm, of hope buried beneath hardship. Through these stories, they built a bridge between their very different worlds. One night, under a sky full of stars, Lyra whispered, "I have never had a home before." Yarok took her hand gently. "You have one now," he said. "Right here, with me." Their bond became unspoken but powerful. They learned each other's fears and hopes without saying a word. Yarrick knew that Lyra was more than a prize won in a game. She was his partner in a fight for freedom, for life, for love, but danger was never far. The poker master's final challenge was coming, and it would test everything they had built. Yarrick looked at Lyra and said, "Whatever happens, we face it together." Lyra nodded, her eyes shining with trust. Together. They stood ready to change their fate and prove that kindness could conquer even the darkest stars. The day had come, heavy with tension and quiet whispers. Word spread fast that the poker master himself was arriving at the farm. Yarrick felt a weight settle on his shoulders. This was not just a game anymore. It was a fight for freedom, for life, for everything he and Lyra had built. The poker master was a tall man, cold and proud, dressed in dark robes that seemed to swallow the light. He arrived with a small group of guards, all armed and ready, his eyes locked onto Lyra with a cruel smile, as if she were nothing more than a prize to reclaim. "Farmer," the master said with a sneer, "you have caused a great disturbance. By winning what was mine, I offer you one final game win. And you keep your prize in freedom. Lose, and she returns to me, and your farm burns to ashes." Yarrick's heart pounded, but he did not flinch. He looked at Lyra, who stood tall despite the fear in her eyes. Together, they nodded, ready for the test that would decide their fate. The game was set on a large table made from dark stone, carved with ancient symbols. The cards were not ordinary. Each one glowed faintly, holding power from distant stars. The rules were strange and new, but Yarrick learned fast, his mind sharp and steady. He knew this game was more than luck. It was about courage, trust, and heart. Round after round, they played, tension thick in the air. The poker master was clever and ruthless, using every trick to unbalance Yarrick, but the farmer stayed calm, remembering Lyra's gentle touch and the hope they shared. At one point, the master tried to cheat, slipping a hidden card into the deck, but Lyra's sharp eyes caught the move. And with a quiet whisper, she warned Yarrick. Yarrick smiled and called out the master's cheat, causing the guards to murmur in surprise. The master's face darkened with anger, but the rules of the game did not allow cheating. As the final hand approached, Yarrick felt a calm settle over him. He knew this was the moment that mattered. With steady hands, he played his cards, trusting not just the game, but the bond between him and Lyra. When the last card was placed on the table, silence filled the space. The poker master looked at his cards, then at Yarrick's, and his face twisted in disbelief. "You have one," he hissed. "But this is not the end." Yarrick stood tall, holding Lyra's hand tightly. "We win together," he said, "and we will live free." The master and his guards left with dark promises, but Yarrick knew they had won this battle. Lyra smiled, tears shining in her eyes. For the first time, she felt true freedom, not just from chains, but from fear. That night, the farm was alive. With quiet celebration, friends and neighbors came to stand with Yarrick and Lyra. The lonely farmer was no longer alone, and the alien girl was no longer a prize. They were a team, a family, ready to face whatever the galaxy threw at them next. But the real victory was deeper. Yarrick had shown that courage and kindness could change even the darkest games, and Lyra had found a home where she was loved, not owned. The victory was sweet, but the price of freedom was heavy. Yarrick and Lyra knew that winning the final game did not mean their troubles were over. The poker master's anger had only grown deeper, and the galaxy was full of those who wished to take Lyra back. Days after their victory, strange ships appeared near the farm, dark, silent vessels that watched from the sky like predators waiting for the right moment. Yarrick stood guard every night, his old farming tools now weapons. Lyra stayed close, her hands glowing softly as she healed small wounds and gave strength. One evening, the silence broke as ships landed not far from the farm. Soldiers poured out, their faces cold and cruel. They came to take Lyra by force. Yarrick gathered his friends. The people who had come to protect the farm and the alien girl, they fought fiercely, but the enemy was many. And the farm's defenses were pushed to the limit. In the chaos, Lyra used her gift not only to heal, but to calm the minds of the attackers. She reached out with her hands and whispered words no one understood. Some soldiers hesitated, lowering their weapons for a moment, but the battle was far from over. Yarrick felt the weight of every choice he made. He saw the fear in Lyra's eyes and the hope in his friends' faces. Freedom was not just winning a game, but standing strong when everything was at risk as the fight raged. A terrible truth came clear. Lyra's gift was both a blessing and a curse. Those who feared her power would never stop chasing her, but those who saw her kindness and strength would stand with her. The farm became a symbol, a place where outcasts and fighters gathered together. They built a new family, one that chose love and respect over fear and greed. One quiet night, after the battle had passed, Yarrick and Lyra sat beneath the stars. Their hands found each other in the dark. "We are free," Yarrick whispered. "But freedom is not easy." Lyra nodded. "I will fight to keep this life, but I am afraid." Yarrick squeezed her hand. "We face fear together. That is our strength." Their bond was stronger than any chain. It was a promise made in silence and fire. The galaxy outside was still dangerous, but inside their small farm, hope grew like the green fields in spring. Yarrick and Lyra were no longer alone. They were a family, a team, and a light in the dark. Freedom had a price, but it was worth every battle, because now they owned their own fate. The battles were behind them, but the journey was just beginning. Yarrick and Lyra stood together on the farm's small hill. Watching the stars above, the sky was vast and full of unknown worlds. But here, on this quiet patch of land, they found peace. The farm was no longer just a lonely place, it had become a refuge. Word spread across planets that the farmer who won an alien girl in a poker game was building something new. People who were lost, hurt, or forgotten began to come. They brought stories, talents, and hope. Yarrick welcomed them all. His simple kindness was a light in a galaxy often filled with fear and greed. Lyra helped heal the wounded and taught those who had never known care what it meant to be loved. Together, they turned the farm into a sanctuary, a place where no one was a prize or property. One day, a small group of children from different planets played in the fields. Their laughter was pure and bright, filling the air with life. Yarrick watched them and smiled, feeling his heart full for the first time in years. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes shining with pride. "Look," she said softly, "we have made a home." Yarrick nodded. Not just a farm, but a family. The galaxy was vast, and dangers still lurked beyond the horizon. But here, love and kindness grew stronger than fear. The farmer who once lived in loneliness had become a leader, a symbol of hope. They had proven that even in the darkest places, light could grow. That freedom was not just winning a game or a fight, but building something better, a new home among the stars, where everyone was free to be themselves. As the stars twinkled above, Yarrick and Lyra stood hand in hand. Their journey had been hard, but it was far from over. Together, they would face whatever the galaxy sent their way, because now, they were not alone. They had each other and a family made of hope, courage, and love. And that was the greatest victory of all.